Media and technology, markets, creators, and the business of culture. Full disclosure, I'm Robin Farzad.
The cost of streaming, there will be a huge reckoning on this. You can't just keep raising the prices over. It's like college tuition. Like, it is so disproportionate to inflation. And basically, our numbers aren't growing anymore in North America. Guess what? We're just going to charge you more. And I think a lot of them are counting on the sort of negligence of the consumer, where you're not looking at your credit card bills, you're kind of lazy, not because you don't have time or you're overwhelmed, and like you'll just let that keep sliding and sliding.
Ankler Media's Janice Min on the frenetic mega mergers and acquisitions. Patrick Bateman in American Psycho famously called it murders and executions. Reshaping Hollywood, which has seen far better times. But all the homogenization is giving smaller, nimbler creatives their first big chance in a long time. Where to? Stay with us. Watch Full Disclosure on YouTube and listen to us on NPR, Spotify, Apple, and all of the podcatchers. We've put them all at one link, fulldradio.com. Again, fulldradio.com. Please subscribe, rate us, tell your girlfriend, mother-in-law, friends, everybody, and catch me on CNN and NPR's Here and Now. Joining us from Southern California, welcome back, is Janice Min. She is, of course, CEO, co-owner, and editor-in-chief at Ankler Media. She attended Columbia at age 16. That's one of the bullet points.
Oh my God.
Maybe not on your LinkedIn, but used to be CEO of Hollywood Reporter, chief content officer at Billboard. And I remember you were the big cheese at, was it Us Weekly?
Us Weekly. Do you remember that?
That, man, I would binge that at every Duane Reade. In New York.
If you didn't buy it, oh my God, you were one of those. I guess they call it an end cap at a grocery. You were one of those people. Just
it
the
was
end
great.
Cap browser.
And you were always called like one of the industry's Wunderkinder. I believe the story is you moved to New York at age 16 to attend Columbia University, and you falsified all sorts of documents. And here you are. At all of age 23, joining us on Full Disclosure.
I've had an amazing, 6 years. It's been wild. Yeah.
Well, I there's no secret. I send you plaudits and everything. I'm a big consumer of Ankler stuff. I impersonate that guy on the podcast. I don't know if it's Richard Rushfield. It's like, so Richard Rushfield, and we got Zaslav. Yeah, Richard Rushfield. I don't know who it is, but I love the pods. I love the stuff.
It's Richard. I know exactly who you're doing.
Richard Rushfield. Yeah. But anyway, it's great. Props to you that you put this together, this ecosystem of people, these reporters. We've had Claire Atkinson on the show before. You're there really documenting the decline and the disintegration of legacy media, and it's coming together in something substantial. Tell me about this.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting. I think that we're in a moment now, and I like that you use the word substantial. I think that is something that people are hungry for and craving, and that they will pay for, which is the kind of one of the most important parts of the equation. And, I think everyone in the last, let's say, decade has been trying to figure out, what does media look like moving forward? And, aside from the New York Times and everyone else, is there, what is the story? And we have had a lot of success building this community around really smart, substantial analysis and news, and amazingly, people want more of that. And I think maybe we even talked about it last time I was on, but the death of scaled media, which was not good for anyone. Scaled media hurt journalism because people just had to churn out stuff all day long to try to ride an algorithm, to try to please Facebook, whatever. And when you really it's interesting when you have a return to the actual journalism, people like it. It has a real resonance with an audience. And I think we'll see a lot of places sustain themselves using kind of an old fashioned model, just be really good at what you do.
But I'm going to throw another PSAT verbal word at you, an asymmetry here, because yes, there is a renaissance in what you're doing and getting people to pay. We had Bill Kristol of the Bulwark on last week, and there are various substackers out there. There's Heather Cox Richardson documenting democracy. There are a handful of very sui generis people who could strike out on their own and do as well, if not better, as YouTubers or substackers. But then there are these exceedingly wealthy people. They've been called the broligarchy by some wags, who can come in and buy a Twitter for non-economic terms, right? It was not worth $42
Yeah.
billion. Or they can buy in succession, if your family is worth $200 or $300 billion, you can consume Paramount, CBS, and that studio. And then while it's like halfway down your throat, you can consume Warner Brothers, Discovery, and all that stuff, because that kind of money to near trillionaires is immaterial.
Well, what it says to me is that this allure of media it hasn't died, right? As much as a certain class of people in the political sphere in the world want to tell you media is over, no one cares about media, it has a lot of allure. There's a reason billionaires are drawn to media, right? Because you can be rich, and there are enough billionaires now where you're not even that special. But the hold of media, and especially Hollywood, in the imagination of the culture is irresistible to people. So if you're David Ellison, you're basically like playing a one-man show. Netflix kind of was in there thinking that they were going to get it, but at a certain point it tipped over into an emotional purchase for David Ellison. He would pay anything, get his dad on board, get the Qataris, the Saudis on board, to get what he wanted. And that's the kind of stuff where that's the kind of wild card stuff. These extremely wealthy individuals who buy it want it more than anything. And when it's a little bit like when the dog catches the car, like, now what? And I
Now
think
what? Which is
now what?
you read my mind. I enjoy this because I read you, I listen to you when you bring you on pod. I've told you need to have your own pod. Like, I want to give you homework, feeding that algorithm every day.
You're gonna help me with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not a tech stack that they're improving as the Oracle guys. Like, what they've done really well, what their bailiwick was for the past 30 or 40 years. It's not like these companies, I mean, they are a little tech deficient in terms of the streaming user interface and everything, but that's not the bottleneck. As you know, the problem with Hollywood right now is that sea change transition from the old world of super profitable DVDs, Blu-rays, box office largesse, a handful of studios out there oxygenating the environment, to the much slimmer margin, but higher loss world of streaming.
Yeah.
That's very hard. I mean, it's not as sexy as it used to be. It just isn't. And it isn't throwing off the cash. If I'm a billionaire with $90 billion burning a hole in my pocket, there are many other higher return on invested capital uses.
Well, that's why there wasn't a competitive bidder to David Ellison ultimately, right? Like, Netflix is a publicly traded company. They saw how their stock responded when they were in the running for Warner Brothers, and everyone, all these, we're in the world of SpaceX now, and OpenAI and Anthropic. Like, this seems very small potatoes, and never has entertainment ever thrown off the kinds of returns that we've seen over the last 20 years in tech, right? Where you can. And but more importantly, where Wall Street will reward you as a growth company. As these are all kind of, a narrative took hold, and it was a little bit self-fulfilling, a little bit true, but that these are unpredictable businesses. It's a business based on humans and creativity, which is like, ooh, to a lot of tech people now, like, oh, let's automate that. So I think for certain people, like a David Ellison, he's talked about how much he loves movies, but what it felt like to go to the movies as a kid, that has a hold on him, right? And but it didn't have a hold on any other billionaire who wanted to buy it for himself.
And then this just in this week is Comcast, i.e. Cabletown,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
splitting itself up from the kind of the dumb pipes business distribution, and NBC Universal, which it has owned for 15 years now. It took that off General Electric's hands. People forget, like, you used to go to Disney World and there'd be the GE Carousel of Progress. It
Can
was
you
a
believe
great
that?
media company. It has since sloughed off CNBC and MSNBC and
Yep.
Sci-Fi and the other things onto cable. What exactly is an NBC Universal in this world? And Peacock, by the way, Peacock being that footnote in
Well,
streaming.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's amazing that you can spin off into another spin-off. I mean, this is a little bit I mean, I think you can look at it in a couple of ways. One of them is like, oh my God, the unloved children are gonna go hide. They're getting sent to the attic. On the other hand, and Richard Rushfield, who you were just impersonating, he had made the point that you know, the two companies that have succeeded the most in entertainment in the last decade are the ones who focus solely on entertainment: Disney and Netflix. And everyone else was just a piece of piece in a very small slice of the pie in these enormous organizations, whether it's, Prime Video in Amazon, Apple TV in, needing to sell phones. And so there is something to be said about letting an entertainment company just be an entertainment company and
How is
not look.
Disney a positive example? I mean, the theme parks are
Okay,
flush, but everything
fair.
else has kind of been a laggard. It can't,
Well,
I don't know if it can afford the arms race anymore with ESPN rights and the others. And it's kind of been dead money for a while. It did have that pop during the pandemic, and you saw the misadventure with the CEO who came in and
oh yeah.
the old CEO coming back, and he finally left the company, Bob Iger.
Yes, no, that was crazy. I would say Disney is, and you can also weave into that the acquisition of Fox, 20th Century
People
Fox, and
forget.
yeah, and like that saddled. This is the story of modern day Hollywood. It saddled them with so much debt that it's hard to justify. Was that worth it? Because they basically turned 20th Century Fox into a zombie studio. It
Yeah.
doesn't really exist to the point where Avatar is kind of thought of as a Disney movie now, even though it had originated under the 20th Century Fox banner. So, however, you look at what Disney does create, like Toy Story 5, right? And I mean that's a monster. And on the flip side, you had Mandalorian and Grogu, which was beaten. This is the 100th iteration of a Star Wars, the Star Wars lore, and it's beaten by Backrooms and Obsession at the box office, right? These YouTube filmmakers who made their movies for nothing virtually, or, can trounce a movie that I think had $150 million budget. So, yes, I agree with you. Disney is not like the shining example, but it is an example because to this day, it still stands for entertainment quality. Parents will buy Disney Plus because they know it's relatively safe for their kids to watch. I think Disney still has an imprimatur of quality that is kind of it's an intangible in this world of slop.
I'll
And
tell you what's very tangible in the Disney holdup. I finally took my kids to Disney World on a scorching July day 3 years ago.
oof,
And I remember one stop was Hollywood Studios, right? And
yes.
there was a sign that said like banana, $2.70. And my son was like, "Do they freeze it? Do they cover it in chocolate?" I was like, "No, son, it's just a banana." And he's
Oh
like,
well,
"What the heck?" And then two, I would say that at Disney World, Walt Disney World, the main, Magic Kingdom, there's nothing in the world more half-hearted than a water fountain at Disney World in the summer. Because either it's not working, the water is warm and smells like sulfur, ergo they want you to buy a $5
well they want you to,
bottle of
yeah,
water.
no, they want you to go
And
like put some
I
plastic
felt
in
like
the,
the
yeah.
product. I didn't feel like the customer. Yes,
That's so
there's
interesting.
there's
You
great
feel like,
enchantment, but that's why they're quadrupling down on this, because
well,
that willingness to pay, that all these people that go into debt for the experience.
well, and also we've written about the, Disney, it's Disney becoming a luxury brand, right?
Right.
And so it's, those, as you experienced firsthand, those prices at the parks and the way that they have all, like, you can't just buy a ticket and think you're going to go on rides. It's all these
No.
different levels
Yeah.
and so, can you, and you're seeing this all across the economy, the brands that are trying to squeeze more out of the very top of the K, and disregarding the needs of the bottom part of the K. And you're seeing it in airlines, right? How they really just want to service business class customers
Of course.
now. Yeah. And, our entertainment companies, the cost of streaming, there will be a huge reckoning on this. You can't just keep raising the prices over. It's like college tuition. Like, it is so disproportionate to inflation. And basically, our numbers aren't growing anymore in North America. Guess what? We're just going to charge you more. And I think a lot of them are counting on the sort of negligence of the consumer where you're not looking at your credit card bills, you're kind of lazy, not by, because you don't have time or you're overwhelmed, and like you'll just let that keep sliding
Yeah,
and
the
sliding.
metaphor has always been you boil the frog ever so slowly
Yes, we're all
before it
getting
jumps out of
boiled
the pot.
very, very slowly by these companies. And at some point, and I just want to pivot that for a second to, Fox's acquisition of Roku, right? And you're seeing, or, Fox, which also owns Tubi, a free streaming service, like these free streaming services, fasts as they're called, are doing really, really well, and it doesn't take, like, you don't need a PhD to know why, right? Like, people, streaming has gotten very complicated. People don't want to pay that much money. End of story.
If I told you, the Murdochs, I always say Rupert Murdoch is 95 years old right now. He and his son are running the company, and there's a whole breakaway group of more kind of left leaning children that are doing some other thing. But
Yeah.
Fox News is having its best business ever, a cable channel, a cable news channel, but actuarially, it's got a lot of 70 and 80-year-olds watching it. And those ads for, laxatives and bathroom retrofits and
Yep.
hearing aids and My Pillow and whatnot, you would never imagine that form factor would be throwing off record profits for them. And two, they were in no rush to throw money into streaming
Well,
apps. Like they really staggered this.
so, I mean, people love them or hate them. Rupert Murdoch sold Fox at the 20th Century Fox at the peak of the market, right? Never spent a penny on building a streaming service, and then in the end decides, you know, Rupert Lachlan combination, whoever at Fox, they decide, you know what, the future is not in content. We're not going to be Netflix and spend $18 billion a year on content. We are going to spend $22 billion all at once and buy the distribution. And that, like, is probably will end up being a pretty masterful play. And I know
Wow,
some
Roku,
analysts,
why is Roku to me an afterthought? It's like TiVo. Like we are
well,
we are pretty agnostic if you're using an Apple TV or a Fire Stick fob or anything. Most TVs now that you could buy a great one at Walmart for $300 have this stuff built in. So what is it specific about Roku that
well,
warranted what, $20 billion?
22 billion. So Roku has about half of all American streaming now. And it
I had
also
no
is
idea.
It's insane. And so Roku, it's like you and I, where we live on the coast, probably don't know a lot of people with Roku televisions. Everyone has an Apple TV, but Apple TVs are a tiny, tiny slice of the market.
I had no idea.
Roku, yeah, Roku is the 800-pound gorilla of connected TVs, and it has the streaming hours. It also is technologically, like, kind of like awesome, right? You, like, everyone is feeding into it. It's a little bit like Amazon channels, but more so. So everyone is feeding into it. It now drives a huge number of subscribers to the services that you're paying individually for, including Netflix, Amazon, Apple. So they are getting a cut of everyone's streaming service that is paying for the simplicity of a Roku, because they're also solving that problem of, like, where do I watch it? Where do I find it? Especially with sports, right? And so, and I to me, it's interesting because that's almost like a very, how the Murdochs have always had a pulse on I would say, even though they are coastal elites, the people who are critically called the coastal elites, it makes sense to me that they understood the Roku play when, everyone else was thinking about Warner Brothers.
Sorry. Full disclosure, it's a pleasure to welcome back Janice Minch. She's, of course, the co-owner, CEO, and editor-in-chief of Ankler Media. In a past life, she was CEO of Hollywood Reporter, chief content officer at Billboard, very well-traveled. You were at People magazine. You showed up at PBS NewsHour. I guess that's where our Venn diagram crosses. And you moved to New York at age 16 to attend Columbia.
Uh,
So you are an enfant terrible or a young Turk or something like that.
By the way, I turned 17 the week I moved to New York. So I just have to amend that 16-year-old thing. But anyway, thank you for that nice
Well, what's going to happen to
description.
NBC Universal? You have NBC, which has sports rights. You have a thriving theme parks business right now. It ain't cheap to go to Universal Studios, in Florida or in SoCal. But
Yeah.
I also will tell you that I live 45 minutes away from King's Dominion, which in a past life was Paramount King's Dominion. They, under the Redstones, decided to cleave that business off. Busch Gardens, the brewery, might have cleaved that business off. Are they going to backwards integrate back into this? Like, could you imagine, and I don't want to get you in a hot stove league, but a Netflix maybe coveting it for theme parks?
Absolutely. Listen, Netflix, I thought Netflix's interest in Warner Brothers, it was the first time they really, like, they had that M&A, they were coveting something in a very public way. And if you're Netflix, you're looking at YouTube and you're looking at the Paramount Warner Brothers mashup right now, and you're saying, "Okay, we're sitting pretty here, but we, like, let's not get caught flat-footed if some of these others, like, what if Paramount Warner Brothers works? I mean, who knows, right? But it will for at least in terms of subscriber numbers be the first real challenger to Netflix numbers, right? And when
Just
you
by
combine
mashing
just by
together two
mashing. Yep.
gigantic streaming apps.
Yep, yep, and this is that whole fantasy of M&A. One plus one equals three, but sometimes it equals AT&T and Warner Brothers, and it's a
That's right.
disaster, right? Or
Or
AOL and
AOL and
Time Warner.
Time
Yep,
Warner, right?
yeah. I mean, so take it with a huge grain of salt. But the fantasy is, oh my God, we're going to own all this IP. We're going to own all the pipes, um and so you can sit there and say like, oh, goody, we're going to rival Netflix. But then sitting atop all of that now is YouTube, which is the real, which is the new Netflix of streaming because
Which is owned by Google, another
which is
multi-trillion
owned by
dollar
Google.
player.
I mean, all
And
roads
which is
lead
right.
to five
I think
companies,
it
basically.
underscores the asymmetry, right? Apple
Yes.
is invested in
Yes.
Apple in media and in film. It's not, it's kind of a sprig of parsley on the plate that is Apple, which is software and services and hardware. Amazon, I mean, are they going to be scrutinized in a downturn if the stock collapses? Will they pull back? Is their media business essential to what Amazon is? I'm not so sure. Netflix, that is what they do for a living.
They do
Comcast
one
would have
thing.
to separate. I mean, the stock was down and have to separate this from that. So is all these asymmetric
Yeah.
battles going on and people disarming and breaking up and shacking up and the other being just a family where money maybe is not an object. I could see all the debt and foreign money being taken on for Paramount Warner Brothers, causing a huge raft of layoffs and deleveraging.
Oh, it will be a bloodbath here in Los Angeles and New York, right? It's going to be a bloodbath in jobs. And, the impact of that is felt. It ripples all through the economy of a place like Los Angeles. Restaurants, like real estate, shopping. I mean, there are many whiffs of despair already happening in Los Angeles. And you see, even with this mayoral race, right? There's a reason Spencer Pratt had some momentum. He did not eventually make it into the runoff, but people liked his anger, and anger could trump, so to speak, like any kind of platform, right? And then now you have the two candidates in the runoff, the incumbent Karen Bass and Nithya Raman, the DSA member who is challenging Karen Bass. It's kind of boiled down to the future of Hollywood. They are really trying to, after kind of ignoring Hollywood and the decline in production and the decline of the studios for the past decade, now it's like front and center because this is where like the middle class lives in Hollywood. The people who make sets, who are doing costume, who are seeing all of it kind of like disappear right out from under their feet.
So your AG in California, Rob Bonta, do you
Yeah.
believe that he has a chance of scuppering Paramount buying Warner
Well,
Brothers? I mean, everybody on the street seems to say that it's fait accompli, that it goes through.
yeah, well, okay. Like, I think Rob Bonta needs to stop like saber rattling and just do. And I'm naive. I don't know the process of filing something along those lines. I do think there's enough noise that he will make the attempt. And I think back to Simon and Schuster and Penguin Random House, right?
Or JetBlue and Spirit, or the random
Yeah.
things that they knock down
Yes.
versus things that will absolutely be anti-competitive.
Yeah, completely. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Stephen King actually got involved in that Simon and Schuster and Penguin Random House by demonstrating that it would hurt a single class of people, which is best-selling authors, right? And because they would
My
have less
gosh.
choice. And okay, great. And I think you could demonstrate in many ways. Again, different times. Um, but you could certainly. I mean, the harms are right here in front of us about what's going to happen, right? It's and the marketplace already. We're working in Hollywood right now with where people aren't getting their quotes. Writers are being asked to do less. Writers are often being asked to work for free before they'll get their check. And you're seeing how anti-competitive measures already are in play based on the last 15 years of consolidation. And it's hard to imagine that gets better. I think particularly when you hear David Ellison, and again, these are just buzzwords until you see them executed, but how he's going to turn it into an AI like we're going to implement AI throughout the system. Like, what does that really mean? Does that mean humans disappear? Like, probably, right? So,
I'm going to try really hard to not sound flip, but we also don't have milkmen. We don't have buggy whips. We
I
don't
know.
have
No,
elevator operators in most cities. They're jobs that go to automation. And
yeah.
just the fact that we're on a Riverside session right now, if this happened 6 years ago, I had to pay an NPR or BBC studio to put you up
Yeah.
and mic you up. Like necessity was the mother of invention, and AI can enhance these things. And certainly that's happening to sound engineers right now. Certainly it's happening to B-roll, SAG-AFTRA, people in the background. I mean, they've
I mean,
always
yeah,
been
well,
looking
I
for ways
complete.
to.
Well, the optimistic argument about AI is that it will enable more people to make more productions, right? And that, like, you don't have to rely necessarily on one of these gatekeepers at one of these studios, who, typically, let's just say, like, a middle-aged or even like septuagenarian white guy to tell you that your movie is not commercial, right? And so, yes, it could liberate a lot of people, particularly in independent film, to do more elaborate productions, to have more ability to do, like, let's say, a period piece, and also kind of not letting what has traditionally been like VFX, special effects, be lumped into the same category as AI. Like, it's all been technology that's enabled sort of glossier, more exciting production levels. So yes, I think that you're right that there is an optimistic view of it. I think we just haven't seen I think from the people in charge, we have not seen optimistic executions of their plans yet.
And
And
and to say nothing of, let's not forget at the onset of the pandemic when we were all homebound and paying $6 for Disney Plus subscriptions for our kids at that great teaser rate, there was a tremendous amount of enthusiasm for content. There was this Cambrian explosion of, I had a treatment out there for my book and people were bidding on it left and right. Nothing ever happened and ended up in what is it called, development hell, or
yeah,
what is the term
development
for
hell.
where you get gaslit and stuff? But that's neither here nor there. And then that suddenly, I think Netflix had a terrible number in 2022, and it caused this famine,
Panic.
this
Panic.
panic in the industry.
Yeah.
Like we got way too exuberant. We were filling these apps with too much expensive content. We have to hike our prices. The losses, if you've seen Peacock's losses, is kind of a hesitating effort at Comcast, NBC, Universal. After a certain period of time, shareholders are like, you're not Netflix, you're not Apple.
Yeah.
I need to see growth and profitable growth.
Well, and remember, that's Peacock with the Olympics also, right? I mean, they've had a lot of wind behind their sails, and that kind of is, the fundamental belief that we're just going to end up with maybe 3 or 4 streamers, and that's all the market can bear. So, yeah, I think we'll probably see, I do think NBC Universal is like a great company that really believes in making great things. Like, I think that is, no one disputes that. But does that mean someone's not going to come calling eventually and say, can I plug Peacock into Netflix? Can I plug Peacock into Apple TV? Like, sure, any of those things can happen. I think the other existential threats, of course, are the creator economy and podcasts, which have now become video podcasts, which have now become a very cheap way to put filmed entertainment on streaming services. So yeah, I think the Netflix is trying to become more like YouTube, right? And YouTube is trying to become a little bit more like Netflix. Like, YouTube's trying to premium up the way people perceive them. They will tell you they have scripted shows or unscripted shows that are as high quality as anything else you see on premium streaming. And Netflix is chasing creators. They just brought on Jay Shetty, paid 9 figures to get him to stop posting on YouTube. Like, that's, in all those conversations, we're not talking about these sort of famous names of TV, right? Like
There are people
Dick
making a go of
Wolf.
it, like Piers Morgan and Katie Couric, trying kind of, they've done well in their careers, and they're maybe trying to get, Don Lemon. I'm talking about news, but Mr. Beast,
Yeah.
even a Mr. Beast would tell you that YouTube by itself is not such an amazing profit center, that you need somebody to pay you in advance, or you need to be able to do merch and events and the other things to really make it worthwhile, like the golden age of Hollywood.
Well, it's part of the flywheel, right? And it's like, I think you could look at YouTube as both a place where you own your material, right? You own your own stuff, which Hollywood is never, like, very rarely lets you own your
No.
material. And so that gives you a lot of optionality. So it lets you, if you are, Markiplier, who has like, I don't know, 17 million YouTube followers. I think that's something like that. And maybe it's more than that. And he activated them to come to the opening weekend of his self-released horror movie Iron Lung, and it made, maybe I'm getting my 17 millions. It made $17.5 million on opening weekend. I think his followers have to be far higher than that, but he got them to come. Or it's like, Backrooms, which was,
Or no, Taylor Swift, who went directly to
Taylor
AMC,
Swift.
right? There are
Yeah.
people who are machines, and we're, after break, we'll come back to that. But I want to remind our listeners that we're joined by Janice Min. She is the CEO, editor-in-chief, and co-founder of Ankler Media. Love having her on. I'm a big fan. Please do stay with us. Full disclosure airs on NPR, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all the fine podcatchers. You can watch us. You can listen to us. In the end, it's only my mother-in-law who listens to us. So nothing really ventured in this. Shout out to our radio listeners on WVTF, Radio IQ across the great Commonwealth. We are out in Ventura, California on KPPQ. We're down in Asheville, North Carolina on WPVM. Holler if you two would like us on your air. And catch me every week on both NPR's Here and Now and CNN. If you're just joining us, my esteemed guest is Ankler Media's Janice Min, very well traveled in print and broad content and creator and conglomerate circles. Gosh, in past lives, she was at The Hollywood Reporter. She was at Billboard. She was at Us Weekly. You were synonymous with Us Weekly for a while, and you really
Oh,
covered
yeah.
yourself in glory there. I do have to ask you, just like you've been in all of these lists, are there like 5 to 10 golden children who get what they want out of whatever Hollywood morphs into? I'm thinking Ryan Coogler. I'm thinking Jason
Oh,
Bateman, like star showrunners that no matter what this turns into, you cannot say no to him. The kid stays in the
yeah.
picture.
Well, okay. So I think one of the things that is contrary to what people were thinking at a certain time in this industry, that, stars don't matter, like, it's all flattening out, that in fact, in this kind of, you know, world of slop we are in, that the top talent matter more than ever. And that could be that you are a top, star, a top celebrity, or a top producer, and you have never had more work. And this is the way of life. If you're one of the top people, you have never worked harder, you have never been more booked, you have never been on set more, and everyone in the middle is like kind of not working nearly as much as they have. And that's because people want sure things, right? So success begets success. So like you can't go to you will not get in trouble at your job if you are if you're casting Ryan Gosling, if you're casting Ryan Reynolds, you're not going to get in trouble. It could flop, but you can go to business affairs will back
And
you up.
Seth Rogen had a send up of all this in his hit Apple TV
Yes,
show,
the
right?
studio. Yeah.
Where IP and let's bring in Lego. Let's not, have Marty Scorsese, holding forth
Yes.
for several hours or anything like that. Let's do what's reliable and do the seventh sequel because there's a slightly more predictable rate of return.
Yeah, no, it's a real, I guess the term is CYA, right? And it becomes sort of self-fulfilling. Then these projects end up becoming maybe less interesting because you're taking fewer risks. And it was, a very senior executive in Hollywood said to me last week when I was in Cannes Lion, I hadn't really thought of this. So people kind of are glad these days are over, but there was a benefit to them when you were a studio chief or a very senior studio executive and you got blown out because your last movie, bombed and you lost the studio $300 million or whatever, like you were given a golden parachute where you had a producing deal and you could sit there and produce movies and still make, tens of millions of dollars a year. And it was a cushion. And now those kinds of deals are gone. And, and you can look at much smaller kinds of deals like that as you go down the food chain, but it did enable risk. It made you feel comfortable to take a swing at your job. Whereas now, like everyone feels like they can't screw up. If you make a mistake, you're toast. And there's not like some job tree out there of tons of Hollywood jobs now that you can go pick one and take it right now. So there is a level of fear that kind of creates the kind of decisions that give you the kind of movies and TV shows that make people groan. Like, oh my God, I really needed, a reboot of Night Court. Yeah. Right. And so
But on the flip side of that, explain to our listeners how a Ryan Coogler is so sui generis. He can come in with someone like David Zaslav, who embodies Oh, put it in a Richard Rushfeld voice.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Captures he captures the Reds. But how does a person like that come in and say, "I have this risky idea"? I think of Jordan Peele. I think of some other people who
Yeah.
are given that leeway, are given that budget to do something really funky. I think of the A24 people.
Yes. Okay. So I will say in the case of Ryan Coogler, Black Panther, right? Like you are like no one's gonna say, oh my God, that like, ooh, that Black Panther guy can't make a movie that makes money, right? So you have that. And also he's like he Ryan Coogler has a singular vision about his movies. He like some of it is when you're in the room talking about the project, like can you enrapture the person listening to you? And
Even if it's
can
David Zaslav, because he
even if
said
it's David
he
Zaslav.
did say like he can control the rights to this. He gave them unbelievable ownership
Well,
of
okay,
a hit movie, which is very genre bending. Like I
extremely.
couldn't, you know.
No, and with the subtext that it's about like the Black American experience, of course, which they did not lead with. It's a vampire movie, right? And but ends up being this kind of brilliant movie that hits on many levels. But I do want to give credit. I know you're saying it was David Zaslav's decision. It was Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi's decision at Warner Brothers, and they are kind of like the closest you can get to an old school studio executive, studio chief, who just like follows their gut. And last year they had an unbelievable year of hit after hit after hit, including, one battle after another, right?
Yeah. I mean,
And
P.T. Anderson, do not give P.T. Anderson. He's one of those people out there. And I imagine Paramount, it's going to behoove them to hang on to these guys.
okay, you would think,
You
but let's
never know.
remember,
They've done other things.
yeah,
What they've done to 60 Minutes, what they've done to other,
well, right. And
and we're
like,
meandering in and out of news and film studios here. But
yeah, well, look at
I
look at
don't
what
think it's an economic concern. I think it's a big plaything and they're trying to satisfy the administration. And I don't know what
well,
the upshot is.
remember the administration asked for Rush Hour 4, a movie no one else in the world has asked for, right? With Brett Ratner as the director. And Paramount says, "Yeah, let's do that," right? And so you contrast that with Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi, who will definitely never make Rush Hour 4, and you just kind of have to wonder how those two cultures will mesh and if they do mesh. And Mike and Pam can go off and produce movies, till the end of time. They have the cool factor. So they'll be okay. But I think it's nice to see these big studios take these big swings and have them land. Like it still feels special to go into a movie theater and watch, Sinners or One Battle After Another.
It's rare and it takes a lot doing it because, like you talked about, the airlines want to focus on business class and first class at the expense of the downward slope of the K. Movie theaters are like this right now. You have to really,
Ugh.
is it one of the great, I don't know if it was Rich Greenfield or someone said the biggest single impediment to the recovery of the in movie attendance industry is the median size of the adult male prostate in the United States because you don't have to worry about bathroom breaks at home. They want to sell you a $12 bladder buster. You can't
Uh-huh.
pause it if you go in. And as a father right now, it's got to be a really enchanting or IMAX thing or something that really gets you out, like that Barbieheimer Oppenheimer weekend. But
Okay,
otherwise,
but
it's a remnant. It's a relic.
okay, but can I just bring up though, like the kids, they're loving movies these days, right? Like there's a whole like a thing, things you never expect. This whole Gen Z, in real life desire to be on opening weekend for something they can get behind, right? And we
But
saw
daddy's
that with
prostate, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
yeah, well, exactly. But yeah, but they can. I think we've seen a few times now this year when you make movies for them, they will come out. And again, I'll bring up Backrooms and Obsession and Iron Lung over and over. But like those are really great examples of like, okay, wow, that and Hollywood, of course, is like that came from nowhere. When in fact, if you were following them on YouTube, you knew they had cultivated enormous audiences on YouTube. So obviously a cultural disconnect. And these are the kids. We're about to see an enormous opening of a movie with the Odyssey, and a story from Homer. I mean, like that's been around for thousands of years, and that's going to drive, Chris Nolan, we just did a piece about it, is like a Gen Z darling. There are a few brand name directors. Ryan Coogler is one of them. Greta Gerwig is another who can actually drive kids into theaters. Who would have thought, right? That's crazy.
I have to ask you quickly, what is a CNN CBS News going to look like? Are
Oof.
people going to pay for that independently on an app? We saw CNN Plus didn't work. Is it going to make a Paramount, Warner Max, HBO Max, whatever they call that fat, whatever $24 app, is it going to make it more worthwhile because you'll have great news functionality on that? Or are they going to try to break that out?
I mean, I was just with two other journalists at this World Cup game, and we were really bemoaning, people don't really want to go to institutional news sources anymore, right? And so I just can't imagine, CBS was already like, whether, you whatever you think of Barry Weiss at CBS, it wasn't like CBS was firing on all cylinders and like growing, right? CBS News. And so they're trying something. It doesn't seem to be working, and it seems to be, pretty politically colored. But I think there's probably part of them, and I think the 60 Minutes thing has not been managed well at all. But they're trying something to shake things up. I will be shocked if if this is the silver bullet. But I've never heard of anyone saying, I want more CNN and CBS today, right? And I
Yeah.
think, everyone's just consuming their social media. Like last year, I would say was a turning point I noticed in kind of how my friends communicate with me. I'm not being sent proper links from news stories and from legacy media outlets. I'm getting sent memes and Instagram reels about stories that legacy news outlets or, what I quote unquote proper news outlets were reporting on, right? Everyone's just like shoulder programming off the costs of off the properly produced old fashioned reporting and production that outlets spend money on, NPR or whatever,
I
any
can
any
see my
place.
mom witnessing this, watching this, and I'm sure you can appreciate it, saying, I told you to become a doctor, you know?
Ah,
Janice Min, I mean, without putting you in too uncomfortable position, why does the Cannes Lion still exist? It seems like one of the
oh
last
my God.
boondoggles. I'm sorry.
Okay, okay,
Like ad execs and others, what the heck
no,
is left of Madison Avenue? What is left of the industry? It's so terribly
okay.
consolidated, the agency of record model. And I don't want you to, you had to go there and do biz dev but it seems like it's a real relic. It's like Freaknik or something.
No, it's only growing. It was bigger than ever this year. And like, this sounds kind of stupid, but it really did feel like a celebration of the industry. Like, it was nice to go and see media people who value like creative endeavors. And of course, they're putting a price tag on it because they're saying, oh, I'll give you money to, to support this or that or whatever. But it did underscore to me how Cannes Lion, which is billed as the International Festival of Creativity, ha ha ha, like that it's a marketing and advertising event. But that these are the people with the money. And now with the tech platforms, every tech platform takes out one of it's called a beach, but they're really the piers that off the coast of Cannes. So, Meta, Yahoo, TikTok, Amazon, everyone is taking out this real estate, but it shows you who has the money, who has the power, but they are the people who are financing where our next generation of entertainment, not even next generation, tomorrow's entertainment is coming from. And, on the depressing side of it, like, we're all getting financed in some ways by fewer and fewer people who we might not even like what they do or agree with them. On the flip, the optimistic side, and I've used that word a few times, they're pouring a lot of money into the market that is allowing for creativity, allowing for people to work, to create videos, journalism, podcasts in a way that has accelerated that creation as opposed to, shutting it down.
And mind you, I'm not bitter that in my 26 years of professional business journalism, not once was I flown out to Davos. Once the Aspen Ideas Festival flew me out. In fact, I'm going to use this to my advantage. I'm not bitter, but in kind of like a Barstool Sports way, I've always been planning, and maybe the anchor can get behind this, that as Davos happens and they get all these rarefied thought leaders in the Alps, I'm going to throw something in DC called a dive bar Davos, where we just bring
Oh,
discount thought influencers,
I
long necks, 2 for $5,
I
wings,
like that.
top of the hour. But I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter, but I digress as I normally do. Janice, I want to talk about Ankler Media because you are, and I hate the verb leaning into, but you are doubling down on the creator space, right? And the people
Yeah.
out there. And all of the different odd lots and people who are building things on their own, and you're enabling them and you're finding them. Take me more into that and what has changed since the last time we had you on. I mean, there's no shortage
Yeah.
of studios, podcasters. There's the agencies, the CAAs, and the others that are finding people and platforming them.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting, right? Like, there's this whole, insurgent creator class that is really, harnessing something that Hollywood has lost, which is the ability to really speak to a young audience anymore. And we've written a lot about like the gerontocracy of
Yeah.
Hollywood, and we did this very funny story Chris Rosen here did the other day about how even in the movies, Meryl Streep in Devil Wears Prada, she's in her 70s and she prevails against her young competitor. Like, and the Anne Hathaway character is like so grateful to have helped her, right? And in vanquishing a young competitor. And in the movie F1, Brad Pitt, who is like
Or
60,
hacks,
like
hacks. You're the same thing. Through
hacks,
line,
yes.
yeah.
And so it's a worshipfulness of the boomers, right? And Brad Pitt is not a boomer, but a worshipfulness of the boomers. And I don't think he's a boomer, but and so, but you see that in studio leadership, you see it in politics. It's like all across society, and it just used to not be the case. And so all the times when like Hollywood has gone sclerotic, right? That there's always been there's been independent insurgents who rise up, right? This happened in the movies in the 1970s,
70s,
which
the famous book about the guys, who were the ones who did, I forget their names, Dennis Hopper and the other, that coterie around him,
yes,
right?
yes,
Who would have
the
thought that
whole
that was the new generation of the auteurs doing
yes.
that? Yeah.
What do you? Yes, and or even like in the Sundance era of the '90s when Quentin Tarantino came out,
Yeah.
and so now like you're kind of seeing what happens when people get sick of what's happening in the culture, and young people. I mean, you can tie this all a little bit into like, you know, Zoran Mamdani, and him endorsing the democratic socialists, and them they're tossing out the incumbents in New York City. Like, there is a huge hunger and desire for the younger generation to have their own kinds of entertainment, and have it be seen on screens. And so, yes, I'm taking a very long road to answer your question. We have embraced the creator economy. We believe that's where culture is moving, not to replace film and television, but in partnership eventually. And it's and you're seeing all these kinds of assumptions about entertainment getting blown up. Like, why do we have 30-minute shows? Why did we have 60-minute shows? Like, why are we building shows around like these kind of contained ad breaks? And so you're seeing, like, I think you're seeing a whole group of people who could never get past the gatekeepers today, right? They could never go. Like, I interviewed at Cannes Lion Brittany Broski, who has a show called Royal Court. I interviewed her along with Mary Ellen Coe, who's the chief business officer of YouTube. And, Mary Ellen Coe brought up, they've never given notes to a creator. Which is, the bane of Hollywood, of a creator's existence who works in Hollywood. Never given notes. Brittany Broski was very clear. Like, I like my things to be free. I reach more of an audience. I have a young audience. They can't go to their parents and ask them to pay $15 a month to watch me. And she said she would also turn down certain brands that don't align with her values, right? That she she doesn't want brands that have a poor track record with women or on issues she cares about. And so that is like a very different way to think about what's getting consumed. And she has this crazy show where like she gets Harry Styles to come on and wear, dress up like someone from Lord of the Rings wearing elf ears, and like she talks to him about
So who's paying for that? Sponsors?
sponsors.
Sponsors and YouTube? I mean, who's advancing
YouTube
that?
is not paying them. So, she, like a Brittany Broski, I'll go back to her. She owns her show. She can license it however she wants. She can cut and slice it on every social media platform, but she owns it, right? And so that will eventually, so if someone wants to buy the Brittany Broski library eventually, that's worth huge value to
But
her.
her
And you see that with
millennial and Gen Z or Gen Alpha, whatever watchers are not out there paying the $45 a month for a YouTube subscription. They're just dealing with the ads, right? Their quality impressions in the target demo.
absolutely.
Is
Yeah,
that
no, like
worth anything? Be honest. I mean,
is it worth anything to
it's
who?
one thing if you're watching Wheel of Fortune. It's one thing if you're watching, Fox News and they have those ads and you're still a person, but we are in that generation where we skip through ads. I don't listen to podcast ads. I look away at the YouTube ad. I don't know how that maintains a currency or an efficacy when they turn around and they're like, okay, this was an impression. If it's a quality
Well, okay,
impression,
so
if the person listened to 3 seconds of the ad.
well, this is what they're also doing, though. They're doing a lot of, integrations, which I think as a journalist, you hear that, from way back,
Oh,
like, oh God, sponsored content. But
yeah.
this is a thing now, right? Like, you can see, one of these big creators, like Mr. Beast or whoever, like, they'll be consuming something in their video, or ultimately, if you're Mr. Beast, you'll actually launch your own chocolate line, and so yeah, like, I hate to break it to the world. Everything is being monetized in every which way, and you're getting served it in maybe a different way than you used to.
Janice,
Um,
close us out. As much as I'd like to have you on for hours and hours, there's a little part of me that kind of wants you to be my boss. Even though I'm
oh
a free
wow.
bird, I'm a free agent. I enjoy this. I love your stuff. I don't think there's enough of you on the pods. Not that I'm giving you more work, but you get pretty spread thin anyway. You go to Can Lion. You're on. I've seen you on CNBC. I've seen you on so many other things. What should I be asking you? What should I be paying attention to? What can you see around the corner?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, I think in terms of media, I think we will see a lot of the rise of independent media in the way I just spoke about the rise of independent creators. Of course, we are already seeing that. I think some of it we've been in a huge period of disaggregation. I think you'll see some of it aggregate back together, right? Like bundle, we've been unbundled, some of it will bundle. I think there's probably subscription fatigue. Like everyone who has a Substack is charging something to someone. I think that uh so I think we'll see, people join forces. I think that like journalism is kind of a lonely pursuit if you're doing it alone. You want to have colleagues, you want to bounce ideas off of each other. It's done when it's really great, it's a team sport. And then I also think we're going to see a huge pivot to things like this podcast, like live events. People like, it's crazy that, whatever, 6 years since the start of COVID, people are still desperately hungry for connection. And, you're seeing that with Gen Z now who like are living for IRL experiences. That was a very scarring episode. And I think we're still seeing the after effects of that. And to me, it explains why Gen Z is going so all in live
My
experiences.
daughter, my teenager, begged me to take her to a Journey concert last month in Charlottesville,
Wow.
and it was so beautiful to connect with her at that level. I was
And
like,
it's the
not
guy
always
from the Philippines,
the
right? Who's
Philippines,
the
not
new
always was Arnel Pineda the lead singer. Let me tell you about the days of Steve Perry, and
Steve and his
I just
hair.
yeah, I just wanted to weep because we were singing the same
Wow.
things, and I felt like somebody in a kind of a boomer commercial, doing that, like,
Oh, yeah, you could
ask
be in
your
a
doctor
Toyota
if
ad
this
or
drug is
something.
right for
Yeah.
you. But
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
in live, and I'm okay, and I'm a Gen Xer with disposable income, and that hit me to a special place. And then she wants to, of course, learn the entire Journey oov, and then it's like, Dad, can we start with Def Leppard Pyromania too? I was like,
Wow.
yes. It's a very
Oh
beautiful
my
thing. So
God.
yeah, I am that person, but I will stop at a $5 bottle of water at Disney World or a $3 banana. I ain't going there.
No.
Janice Min, I love having you on the show. Consider yourself a friend, if I might be so presumptuous. And if this journalistic thing doesn't work for us, there's always the possibility in Terrangelis, maybe at the corner of Western and Olympic Avenue, we do like a hybrid Persian Kalbi Korean barbecue. Make some money. Set up a foundation, channel it into Ankler Media.
Oh my God, I like that. With some gochujang on top, and we got it going on. Okay, I
I'm
like
all
it.
over that. Chosan Kalbi, I love that place. But
Yes.
thank you for coming on, and please, anytime.
Thanks for having me.
Full disclosure, special thanks to Ian Stewart. If you are listening to us on the radio, note that while we cut for broadcast link, the entirety of every interview is on podcast. We are on the NPR network, Spotify, Apple. Watch us on YouTube. You could find them all at one link, fulldradio.com. Again, fulldradio.com. And please do recommend us to a friend. A shout out to our home station, WVTF Radio IQ, Virginia's NPR news source. DM me to carry us on your air, and catch me every week on both CNN and NPR's Here and Now. I'm Robin Farzad. Thank you for listening. Back with you next week.